I thought I'd start my first BookTube video with my October wrap-up and give you a chance to see what books I read, what I'm interested in, give you an idea of what will be coming up on the channel. So the first book I read in October was Agatha Christie, Sparkling Cyanide. I love Agatha Christie. I have all her books. I've read them all. This is a reread. I'll probably read them over and over again. Absolutely love Agatha Christie. This one involves a woman who dies in a restaurant after drinking poison champagne. The verdict is suicide, but a year later her husband receives an anonymous letter saying that she was murdered. This doesn't have Miss Marple or Hercule Poirot in it. It does have Colonel Race, who appears in 4 or 5 of her books, but a good standalone Agatha Christie novel. I gave this 4 stars. The second book I read in October, another one of my absolute favourite authors, Terry Pratchett's The Shepherd's Crown. I've read all of Terry Pratchett. This is the final Discworld novel. For Discworld fans, this is a sad read, not just because it's his last one, but because of the plot and the subject matter. I must admit, if you've read all the Witches ones, you may shed a tear or two. I know I did. If you haven't read the Witches ones, don't read this one first. Leave this one till the end. But I gave this 4 stars. I know it has problems in the writing. It was his last one. It was unfinished when he died. But because it's Discworld, 4 stars. The third book I read in October, I don't have a copy. I read it on my Kindle. And that was Charles Dickens' Martin Chuzzlewit. I read this for Victober. I read it on my Kindle because it's free. Now, I like Charles Dickens, and I'm currently working my way through them, but this one I found tough going. The first 200 pages, first third of the book, nothing really happens. The characters are brilliant, as Dickens does, but I struggled. The second half picked up. But yeah, it's not his best. I gave this 3 stars. The next book I read in October, I'm carrying on. I love detective series, and I will start at the start and read the whole series in a couple of months. And I'm currently halfway through Inspector Morse series. This is The Secret of Annex 3 by Colin Dexter. This is halfway through. I think this is book 7 of 13, so I'm halfway through. As I say, I'm reading all of the Inspector Morse series. This one involves a murder, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, at a fancy dress party in a hotel. Inspector Morse investigates. Needless to say, nobody is who they say they are. A very good, solid Inspector Morse book. Next up in Inspector Morse was The Wench is Dead. Now, this is a different feeling Inspector Morse book. This one, Inspector Morse is actually in hospital, and he reads about a crime, a murder in the 1850s, and he, from his hospital bed, with the help of Lewis getting research material, he studies the case and the trial and works out himself what actually happened over 100 years ago. Very good book, lots of historical detail, fascinating read. I think this won the Gold Dagger Award in the 1990s or whenever this was published. But yeah, good, solid Inspector Morse. And finally, in the Inspector Morse for October, The Jewel That Was Ours. Inspector Morse is called in to investigate theft of a jewel from an American tourist, and also the potential murder of the owner of that jewel, and that leads on to more murders, more intrigue. And yeah. Interesting one about this book is this was actually based on an episode of the T-series. This was actually based on the episode, this was actually based on an episode of the TV series of Morse, and Colin Dexter liked it so much he adapted it, got the rights for it, adapted it, and turned it into this novel. Obviously made a few changes here and there. a good instalment of Inspector Morse. You can tell he really hit his stride towards this middle period of Inspector Morse. Looking forward to reading the last of them, hopefully in November, maybe December. 4 stars for that one. Also in October I have an ongoing project of reading all of Shakespeare's plays. Absolutely love Shakespeare. I've got a bookshelf downstairs full of Shakespeare. I'm currently doing a project where I read a scene a day. In October I finished Henry V. Absolutely love Henry V. It is a long read. Oh, do it that way. Fascinated by Henry V. We saw it at the RSC a few years ago with Alex Hassel playing Henry V. Absolutely stunning. We go to Stratford upon Avon 2 or 3 times a year to see Shakespeare. Love Shakespeare. Next play I'm reading will be Two Gentlemen of Verona. I'm not doing them in any order, just random. So you'll probably hear more about Shakespeare on this channel. You'll probably hear more about Agatha Christie, because I love detective fiction, especially the Golden Age. I'll read more Inspector Morse books. I'm also doing non-fiction November, so I shall be taking part in that. I shall be reading more non-fiction in November. So that's my channel. If you like detective fictions, if you like Terry Pratchett, fantasy, Lord of the Rings, that's the sort of thing I like to read. I'd like to get recommendations from you lot to get new books. I find myself in a bit of a rut of going back to the same authors all the time. I always go back to the Agatha Christies or the Terry Pratchetts, and I want to discover new authors. So any recommendations for detective fiction especially, leave in the comments below, and we'll look forward to more happy reading.